Good evening. Welcome to the Power Hour. I am Steve, of course, along with my partner, the urban sensation, the iconic one and only C-Red. And joining us tonight on this show is probably the most connected man in Midwest independent wrestling, or wrestling that I know for that matter. It is the man who is the name and the voice behind Windy City Slam. It is our friend, Mike Pankow. Mike, how are you, sir?
I am doing great. Thank you so much, Steve and C Red, for having me on the Power Hour. Very excited.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, timeout.
We got timeout on the field already. We're not even 2 minutes into the game.
Like you stated a friend of ours.
Good friend of ours. Good. He's always at the shows. The man does more for promotion of
I
wrestling.
ain't been on Windy City Slam. I'm just saying.
So it's gonna be that show. It's gonna be that show where you're questioning our guest as to why he hasn't had your dead ass on the show.
I ain't been on there. Miles ain't been on there. Eric Larkin ain't been on there.
This is a professional forum, C-Red. This is our guest. You're gonna hold our guest to the fire because he hasn't had you on his show.
Hey, first of all, I'm still pissed about Saturday. So,
well, we're gonna get to CTW Destiny Reborn a little later on in the program, but when you have the man that is Windy City Slam on your show, there are so many ways and so many directions and so many stories that we can go with. But I think I want to start at the beginning. Mike, tell me why Windy City Slam and how it all came to be, because I see you everywhere. I see you with your media credentials. I see you interviewing the big stars at places like Warrior, at Comic-Cons. You're just everywhere. Tell me how you get that done, man. What is your secret?
Well, I'm a longtime professional journalist. I've been in the business 25 years, and I've been a lifelong wrestling fan. It's been a passion of mine for many, many years. I kind of wanted to bring those two together. So about 3.5 years or so ago, I'm like, I would love to have a website and to cover some of the events. I mean, obviously I wanted to do WWE, Impact Wrestling, some of the bigger companies, but I knew there was a very hungry and very exciting Chicago fan base that just loves independent wrestling. And you have so many promotions. You have over a dozen promotions that run regular shows. So once I finally figured out, okay, this is what I want to do, I got the website rolling, windycityslam.com. And in fact, we're just celebrating our 3rd anniversary just last week. WindyCitySlam.com came to age on August 2nd, 2018.
Wow.
So very excited to get that on board. And my first interview was an interview I did previously with my shoot job. I talked to a gentleman named Christopher Nowinski, former WWE superstar and head of the Concussion Legacy Foundation. Now, he helped me get on board with a big story, a big interview right off the bat. And then I was like, okay, we're off and rolling. I talked to guys like Mick Foley at Comic-Con, Tommy Dreamer, the Nasty Boys, Road Warrior Animal. And then I started dabbling into the independent scene, covering shows, taking pictures. Warrior Wrestling was one of the first to kind of welcome me in. And then I had promoters from everywhere like, Mike, you got to come on out. And trying to fight with my personal schedule. I've done my best, but obviously I know there's a lot more I can do. Warrior Wrestling is up there, but then I've tried freelance underground. I have also covered Berwyn Championship Wrestling, Chicago Style Wrestling for the first time this year, POW Entertainment for the first time this year, Frontline Pro as well. I've heard of a lot of other good things from a lot of other promotions around. I know there's CTW that's kind of getting under the fire again, getting rolling. AAW, which I have not been to yet. I've always heard great things about them, running out of 115 Bourbon. But yeah, WindyCitySlam.com, it's a passion project for me. And I had the podcast, I had the website for about 1.5 years. And then an old friend of mine who I reconnected with on Facebook said, Mike, why don't we try a wrestling podcast and we can delve into local Chicago wrestling personalities? And I'm like, okay, sure. Started back in January 2020, a fellow by the name of Chris Lanuti. And in fact, I'm still a part of his broadcast basement on-demand radio network for the Windy City Slam podcast. And he took me in, he taught me the ropes a little bit about doing interviews and just being on the mic and stuff like that. And I thought it was a pretty good success very early on. We grew a little bit. We had a bunch of guests in that first year. A lot of fun people we talked to: Sam Adonis, Brian Pillman Jr., Drama King Matt Raywalt. And then we started bringing in some great Chicago independent names like Marche Rocket, Vic Capri, Jesus Bryce Benjamin, up and comers like Missa Kate. We had Laney Luck. We've had personalities like Val Capone, young guys like Darius Luttrell, Trevor Outlaw. Just a really, really fun concept that we're doing with our podcast. And I basically format it where we do a little bit of a recap, a review of local shows or a preview of what's coming up. And then we bring in our guests for 20 to 30 minutes. We just shoot. We talk about all kinds of cool stuff. And within the last couple of months, I've been doing the podcast on my own, solo, without my co-host, Chris. He's moved on to do some other stuff with his network, and he trusted me with running the operation. So very happy with how Windy City Slam is coming. We just had our most successful download month in the history of the podcast back in July. So we're very happy about that. And we're looking to continue to grow.
You got a lot going on, but man, see, now you just said everything I needed to hear, and now I can qualify why you haven't had C-Red on the show yet. Because if you only allot 20 to 30 minutes to shoot with a guest, that doesn't even get C-Red warmed up. You need about an hour and 45 minutes before C-Red starts telling the good stuff.
Oh, you got jokes. You got jokes. You got jokes.
I thought you'd enjoy that joke. I enjoyed it.
Like Greg the Hammer Valentine during matches. It takes him 20 minutes just to get warmed up.
See, the Hammer Red. I love it. It's a brand new gimmick.
At least I'm not Willie trying to get dressed for the show.
Anyway.
So, Mike, let me just say this. First of all, and it's probably the reason why I'm upset with you, but thank you. Because so for a while, there was someone else, and they used to write articles about what was going on the Chicago scene. And for whatever reason, they stopped, and you would see it every blue moon, but it wasn't as consistent as it used to be. So you bringing attention to the guys and gals that are on the scene is so much appreciated. So I thank you, because I don't live anywhere else, so I can't talk about anywhere else. So my opinion is biased, and I think Chicago has the best. So for you to take time and go around, that's pretty awesome. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Coming from a man like you, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, Mr. C-Red.
Wow, getting a compliment like that out of C-Red, not many get those, which is pretty impressive. Very nicely done. Being a journalist and having that background, do you find that has major transition into a podcaster and wrestling aficionado kind of in the know? Do you think that's helped with the progress of Windy City Slam?
Absolutely. I mean, I think having a journalist's approach to it does help a lot of things. Getting to know people a little bit more. I used to be a shy kid, somebody who was kind of afraid to go up to people and talk to them and ask them their name or just to get to know them. Now it's like, I want to seek people out. I see all these people behind the scenes at wrestling shows. I see guys helping to set up the ring. I've seen veteran guys hanging out in the back or on the side or whatever. I'm like, I want to pass my business card out to everybody. It's just an amazing experience. And being a journalist, I just want to bring kind of a feel for it that's more of an official thing. I mean, yeah, a lot of podcasts go the way of kind of like tongue-in-cheek, kayfabe and stuff like that. And I like the kayfabe stuff too. We've had guests on the podcast that have done stuff in kayfabe, and I just love that. It adds color, it adds flavor to the shows, but also bringing a journalistic aspect to the website and the podcast as well. I think just helps wrestling, it just makes it more legitimate in people's eyes.
I think I couldn't agree more with you. On this show, we kind of blur the lines between reality and kayfabe more than I'd like to admit. I find everybody kind of goes back and forth here, which is a double-edged sword. It can be fun and it can be a little weird because you don't know which end is up on some of these shows. I've done interviews in the past where people come in unexpectedly in full-on character, and you want to find out what made them pop as a wrestling fan. You ask some of the basic questions, and then they threaten your life. So it's a mixed bag depending on who you're interviewing. So the art of the interview I think is somewhat lost. What do you mean I'm stirring the pot? I'm being honest here. I'm having a conversation with a journalist.
I'm just saying, I know who you talking about. He knows that you're talking about him.
Nobody know who I'm talking about. I think the point is, what I like about what you do is your interview style and the interview quality. I like for two reasons. Reason number one is you're not afraid to ask big questions, and some people are a little timid when it comes to being direct. And I think that's what people expect when they're interviewed is they want the directness. They want someone to give them information so they can respond to it. I've heard many wrestling podcasts where it's just two people kind of meandering around and the person that's the guest has no idea what to say because there are no real questions being asked. It's like that old Saturday Night Live skit with Chris Farley and Paul McCartney. Hey, remember when you were in the Beatles? And Paul's like, yeah, I do. That was great. You get that. Not that it's not charming, but you're not learning anything. And I think interviews, you need to come out of it learning something. And I also think they need to be entertaining. And I think you do a great job with that. Do you have a particularly memorable interview that when you think about, geez, I've done all these great interviews, what are some that stand out as something that maybe gave you a different perspective on a performer or maybe changed the way you felt?
That's a great question. I'm trying to think of website or podcast, or does it matter?
Doesn't matter. I'm talking to any time you've talked to somebody, whether you're interviewing them for print or podcast, it's the same kind of thing. Has anybody really just made you sit back and go, man, I never saw that coming? Because I've had a few of those experiences and they can be great. And they can also be a little, wow, I'm never going to look at this person the same again. I say that every week because I can't look at See Red the same each week.
Well, actually a memorable interview for me was Billy Gunn and his son, Austin Gunn, for the WindyCitySlam.com website. Now they were at Wizard World a couple of years ago, and I had both of them there, talking to both of them at their booth. And we start talking a little bit about DX and Suck It and all that stuff. And Austin's like telling his dad, oh man, you got me in trouble for those two words. And then Billy's like, I didn't say the two words. I was pointing the mic out at the crowd. I just thought that was kind of a funny little tidbit there for that interview. Guy I really enjoyed interviewing. And in fact, it was the longest episode ever on the podcast. And maybe this is a See Red length episode. It was a 1 hour, 12-minute Windy City Slam podcast episode, and about 50 of those minutes were dedicated to Frank the Clown. Now people are like, Frank the Clown, why the hell are you interviewing Frank the Clown?
I love Frank. Frank is one of the great things that happens in wrestling. There's no reason Frank should be as over as Frank is, but he is. When he took over Warrior Wrestling and came in by helicopter, I've seen a lot of crap in wrestling, but a clown entering an arena via helicopter, I'll never forget it.
Yeah, and Frank, we talked about that. We talked about his antics and all that, and he's just an unbelievable down-to-earth guy outside the ring. I mean, he loves collecting his pops, his Funko Pops. He's a big LA Rams fan, and I tried to get to the bottom of that. I'm like, LA Rams, you're from Chicago. Then I realized, oh yeah, he was born after 85, so he has no clue about the history of the
So
great
he's not
Chicago
he's not a
Bears.
resurgent Brock Dieter fan. Or no, sorry, Dieter Brock.
Peter Brock, yes. The 85 Rams quarterback who
That's
got knocked on his ass several times by the
many
Bears.
a time.
Now this is going to go down in history. A Dieter Brock reference. I love
This
it.
is the Dieter Brock episode.
Indeed.
It's like a homecoming episode of Little House on the Prairie, but we'll move right
Frank
along.
was good. And I'll tell you another guy, a fairly recent interview that I had, Axel Rico. I mean,
oh my God. There are not enough Ricos in the world. There needs to be more. Axel Rico is splendid.
I love talking to him. I mean, his improv background, his comedic background, the personality, just the machismo and the flair that comes out of that guy is amazing. I love what he does in the ring. I love the character that he brings. And that thing, that Proving Ground Chicago that he does with Mateo Valentine and a few of the other younger guys, that's something on YouTube you got to catch. Proving Ground Chicago. Good stuff.
I'm pretty partial to the guy doing commentary at Proving Grounds. I think he does some fine work.
Indeed.
Axel Rico, I could talk about Axel Rico all day. His dad, Francisco Rico, Mascara Rico, his cousin. I mean, there's a Rico for every day of the week.
Yeah.
And, that man has a bright future. There's no way Chicago, the indie scene, is big enough for Axel Rico. He's going to be one of those guys we're going to be seeing on a Monday or a Wednesday before too long. He's that good in the ring, and the man can speak and has more charisma than just about anybody working on the scene right now. I love Axel Rico. So I everything you just said, I absolutely agree with. C-Red, you love Axel Rico, right?
No, seriously. I like Axel. I like his body of work. I'm more interested in, I guess when Mike mentioned Billy Gunn, I had a bad flashback. I told that story before, so I won't tell it again.
But on commentary, so no love lost with me and Billy Gunn. He's probably right though. Billy was probably right. That was probably.
But I look at it from where that point in your career, and then look where you are now, and I mean, think about. And I'm not trying to put you over.
Oh God, here we go.
But look at the fact of you probably were nervous. Here's this, superstar sitting next to you doing commentary, and you were used to, at that point, Steve Kern like sitting next to you, like how big of a up is that? Steve Kern, Billy Gunn. So
yeah, it was it was, I was a little starstruck, admittedly. I'm gonna ask Mike that question in a minute. Every once in a while you just meet somebody that you've been a fan of, and it's really hard to, of all the places I've worked and of all the superstars that I've met, I've not really marked out only a couple of times. Billy Gunn, one of them, because it was the first superstar experience that I ever had, which is why he called me an idiot. So that you can imagine how well that went. I was doing All In for ESPN 1000 with Jonathan Hood.
Okay.
And we were at StarCast. And I was sitting with Jonathan and we were doing a show. And Tony Schiavone came on to our show. Talked to Tony Schiavone. And I am a huge fan from a commentary standpoint. As far as I'm concerned, the two greatest of all time. No, P.L. Myers would say Gordon Soley. He compares me to Gordon Soley. I love Gordon. But for me, the Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig of commentary for me is JR and Tony Schiavone. They're the best. Everything I try to do, I do with listening to them in my mind. So to actually sit in front of Tony Schiavone, Jonathan Hood busts my balls to this day that I marked all over Tony Schiavone. So that might be why I get no jobs anywhere up the ladder, because I can't control myself. So that's an embarrassing story, but nonetheless, Mike, which brings me to my next question. Do you ever get to the point where you kind of mark out? I mean, being a wrestling fan, with all of the, I mean, I saw you with Tori Wilson, seen you with Animal. The pictures are all over your page. Do you ever go fan, or are you able to keep, I mean, with your journalistic background, I can see maybe you have that mechanism. But do you ever kind of mark out a little bit when you've met somebody? Has that ever happened to you?
Absolutely. I have to suppress the whole marking out thing really, really hard because you're trying to maintain a level of professionalism and just trying to keep it impartial, unbiased and all that. But I met people, like you said, Animal was a big one. I did an interview with him too. He was absolutely awesome, and just so sad that he passed away not too long ago. Lanny Poffo I met at StarCast 1. I was
Wow.
kind of shaking with that one because I know he's the brother of one of my favorites of all time, the Randy the Macho Man Savage.
He's also the genius.
Yeah, I
Let's
love
not
that
underscore
genius
the
character.
popularity of that genius.
Yeah, I love the genius. You kidding? Like heels like him and Mr. Perfect and the Macho Man and the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase. Those were my bad guys, my go-to bad guys when I was growing up watching WWF. And I just loved all those guys. And marking out, absolutely. Even when it's just a meet and greet, or even if it's an interview. I mean, I even got to interview Stephen Merchant, who's an actor and a director, and he was one of the influences behind Fighting with My Family with
Yeah.
the story about Paige that came out a few years ago. I actually did a face-to-face live interview with him. And after that, I'm like, oh my God. And he's like 6'7" too. It's like, whoa, I'm 6'1", and he's like towering over me. But yeah, that was a really cool experience. I marked out for that too, because some people know him. He's an actor. He's been around. And obviously the guy I probably marked out the most was CM Punk. I mean, one of my all-time favorites. I've met him at C2E2. I've met him at Wizard World. In fact, I saw him running the Chicago Marathon in 2011, which is a funny story. We're watching, my wife and I and some friends are watching the marathon for a couple of her friends and a couple of my friends. All of a sudden, they see a guy with some tattoos and shorts running by. I'm like, is that CM Punk? He actually runs off the course, like maybe 50 feet ahead of me, goes and talks to some friends. I'm like, holy smokes, that it really is CM Punk running the marathon. I'm like shaking, like, do I go up to him? Do I take his picture? Now I'm feeling like a paparazzi. So maybe that was part of my influence of getting into the business, so I could actually take pictures of wrestlers without feeling like being a paparazzi.
Makes sense. Makes total sense. He is such a polarizing character. There are some people that say he is just the most genuinely nice guy. And then there's Braun the Lumberjack, who says, never said anything nice about the man in his life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he really is polarizing. I mean, I guess it just depends on the experience. I've met him maybe 3 or 4 times. He's been very positive almost every time. And in fact, it was maybe 2.5, 3 years ago at C2E2. I actually had like 5 minutes alone with Punk, just sitting there talking with him at his booth. It just got quiet. It was a Friday afternoon, and we just started shooting stuff about the Blackhawks, about his dog Larry, about AJ. It was really, really cool. Tried to get him for an interview, but he politely declined.
Well, you know what? That's just the fact to have a moment, and that's the thing, when you're good at what you do, if you can make a star comfortable enough to kind of engage with you on any kind of personal level, talking about a dog, talking about a wife, just talking about things in general, most people don't get that, which I think is why you have been so successful with Windy City Slam, because I think you provide an air of comfort, and you don't get to the point where you make the person you're interviewing feel uncomfortable. And that's half the game. When somebody feels like they're being interviewed, it can be a little stiff, but when you feel like you're just having a conversation like we're doing now, there's nothing stiff about it. It's just 3 guys having a conversation about what's going on. And, that's when the most interesting stuff happens, at least as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think what I try to do with some of my interviews is, it's not just, who trained you, which I do cover a lot, but I'm looking for interesting stories. I'm looking for angles. I try to do my research on people. Like for Sky Blue, I tried to figure out, was she an athlete in high school, or guys like Trevor Outlaw. I found out that he was a high school wrestler at Sandberg, and then he had some sort of like art thesis thing or whatever it was. I'm bad memory here. It's been a year since my first interview with Trevor where I touched base on that. But yeah, I'm trying to keep it interesting and find lighter little things. And the interview that I just dropped this week with Cal Hero from the Milwaukee area.
I saw that. That's impressive. Fanny pack and all.
Yeah, and he's cousins with Tyler Hero, who's in the NBA with the Miami Heat. And they've strangely enough have never met, but they've had some communication, I guess, but they've never met in person. So I thought that was very, very interesting.
Wow. See, you're covering angles that most people don't even think to cover. And that's why you need to have a 2-hour Windy City Slam when you bring C-Red on, because C-Red, I'm convinced, has worked with every human that has ever laced up boots in the tri-state area, number one. Number two, has either had some effect on training them or mentoring them. And it's not embarrassing to me. It just makes me feel less of a man, because everybody that comes on here that's a professional wrestler wants to go on a eulogy to C-Red and proclaim the worship of the hero that C-Red is. And I'm just sitting here going, well, they don't need me on this episode. That's the joy of C-Red. That's the joy of being the straight man to an icon. And now he's getting ready to make history again. I'm just sitting here on commentary, and all of a sudden, Marche Rocket getting his ass kicked. He's in peril after a big match, and who comes to his rescue is none other than forever young C-Red.
Yeah, Marche, I love that guy. In fact, I did pass the 7th anniversary of actually seeing my first Marche Rocket match. It was this awesome ladder match at Pro Wrestling Blitz in Joliet. It was him and Grin for the No Limits Championship. I believe Grin actually escaped with the title, but I'm like, man, this Marche Rocket is damn good. He's going to be somewhere in a few years. And sure enough, he was in Impact Wrestling for a while, which I thought was really, really cool. And now he's doing some stuff with the NWA. We had him on our show a few months ago. Great interview. I love Marche Rocket.
Well, now you're pitching right to C-Red's wheelhouse, because I'm pretty sure C-Red in a laboratory invented Marche Rocket. He had the little cap on, the little inventor cap, and he was current stuff in the beaker, and he's like, Marche Rocket. And there it is.
No, I had no. First of all, Mr. and Mrs. Rocket created Marche Rocket. But our history is so entwined with each other. So and I've said it when he was on here, without Marche,
duh soul touches.
Well, yeah, does so touches.
Not touchers, not touchers, you simps.
No, it was touchies.
Oh, touchies. That's right.
Yes, I'm like, huh? What? No,
Antoine
touch us.
Antoine 2.0 doesn't have any history.
None whatsoever. But again, if there's no Marche, there's no C-Red. That's just fact. And again, I think we are, even though our careers have went different ways, but I think that's the way we wanted it. Again, I still have things here personally I need to deal with. Marche is that young lion who, again, is out there making a name for herself, and but Mike in his interviews seems to always cover these people, and he makes it interesting to listen. See, that's the problem. So here's an unknown fact that a lot of people don't know. When podcasting first began, guess who had their own show?
Here we go. I told you, everything, you can trace everything back to C-Red. C-Red probably invented podcasting.
No, but like a lot of people weren't into it. like, and it was just relatively new. So me and now Jay Washington, formerly known as Trauma,
Big shot
it was
Hollywood bigwig.
right, you know. So I
I've never
started
get
the
Jay Washington on this show. He's
dude.
not your brother, and I got to book all the guests.
Well, go ahead, do it. That's
You call him. He's your friend. Let's get some
we
Hollywood up in here.
I gotta work the time thing out.
Uh-huh.
So, but no, seriously. So if you want them, I'll see if I can get the time down.
I'm putting out guests like Mike Pankow here. The man is an icon in this community with Windy City Slam. He's everywhere.
I know, right?
Jay Washington, do something.
Hey, I booked whoever. Anyway. Hey, I got you Jazz and I got you Willie, right? Thanks.
Let's just Jazz, because Jazz is unlisted. At least to me.
But so we tried it. And I mean, I loved our podcast because we brought everything to it, you know, but it's hard doing it by yourself. So for you to take on the mantle now of doing it by yourself, one, I applaud you. Two, and again, when people, so I don't know about you guys. So when I listen to a podcast, you're going to get me for about 2 minutes. If you are not hooking me in those 2 minutes, I'm cutting you off. I'm just not. You know, and it could be the greatest interview in the world. But I'm going to say it wasn't, because it just sounded so dead. It sounded like, I hate it when it sounds like somebody is reading from the script the entire time. And I don't want that. I want, you know, even though I'm listening, I still want to be entertained. I still want the interviewer and the interviewee to have some kind of rapport and chemistry. So, Mike, you're doing an awesome job with that. Again, none of your interviews sound like you're pulling teeth. Me and Steve have had a couple of guests, and that's what it felt like, you know. And it's sad to say that once the interview is over, and our guests leave, me and Steve both look at each other on screen. You know, like
it's true.
Like if we didn't announce it, we wouldn't put it out. Like, you know, but so you're doing an awesome job, man. Keep it up. Has there been anybody, let me ask that you, once you interviewed them, you were like that didn't go as great as I wanted it to go?
Yeah, there were a couple, and I won't mention names because I really don't want to do that.
No, you don't.
But there were okay.
2 or 3. Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they just come off where, you know, maybe they were nervous, or they just weren't very vocal with their answers, or they wouldn't expound on much past a yes or no or maybe so type of answer. Yeah, it's not easy. And I appreciate the fact you bring up the point that I've been doing these by myself the last couple of months. Because sometimes it feels like I need a break after a few minutes of just spouting off or just talking to one guy. I mean, obviously you and Steve being there together, play off each other, and at least there's different voices. The one thing I have a little bit of a fear of is there's too much of my voice on the show, and I like to be able to kind of share that out with the guests. That's why I would love to have more guests speak out a little bit more.
I know you're not looking at me.
That's what I'm looking at. I'm not looking at Mike.
Man, that takes 45 minutes to tell one damn story. You better stop.
I know you ain't talking.
Everybody knows who. Here's the funny part. We all know what the funny part
But
is.
at least you're going to get a good story out of it.
This is true. I will give him that. C-Red tells stories like no other. Have you ever had a guest on a show or on a podcast for an interview that you've written that was controversial, and you walked out of there going, man, this is not what I wanted at all?
Not too crazy. I know when I had Joey Roth on, there was a comment where I had to kind of edit it out just to make sure there wasn't a lawsuit or anything like that. Referring to a former girlfriend of Randy Savage, I had to delete it. I had to, thank God there's post-production. I edited it out, but no offense, Joey, I love you, man, but I just couldn't run that risk.
Hey, shout out to Joey Roth.
Marriage.
Right.
And right now, right?
What is it? I thought it was the 13th.
No, yeah, it's happening in a couple of days. Yeah,
but they're already there.
Terry in Salem.
So congratulations, pre-congratulations to Joey Roth, the villain, and the villainess, Roxy Hart. We love you guys. Roxy was our guest last week, but this is where I shoot again. To hell with everybody. It's my damn show with him. You guys are awesome. We love you guys. May God bless that marriage. And we are behind you, me and Steve and everybody, 100%. So congratulations. Enjoy your life together.
That's amazing. They're getting married on a Friday the 13th in Salem, Massachusetts.
In a cemetery.
Yes. In a cemetery. Like
cemetery.
Who does that?
That's amazing.
Joey freaking Roth does that.
Right. That's something that you expect from Joey.
Joey has the largest testicles any Caucasian human has ever had in the history of this world, I'm pretty sure. I don't know it for sure, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Joey was a great guest on our show a few weeks ago. And he's a guy I actually met first at Wizard World. He and Roxy were cosplaying. He was Rowdy Piper and she was Lady Loki. It was really, really cool. I'm like, oh my God.
Well, we're not shocked about the Loki part. The Rowdy part? Okay.
Oh man, his love for Roddy Piper is well documented. And you can see when Joey does Joey, there's a little Roddy Joey going on in there.
I mean, I know, but I'm just saying, like, I guess if I cosplay, I'm Batman, she's Batgirl, something like that, not Loki and Piper. So
I've seen you cosplay before. You do a mean Teddy Long.
Holla.
Couldn't resist. I just couldn't resist. It's too good. It's too good. You were very professional on the Teddy Long show, by the way. I know it was not easy for you. But
let's ask that, Mike. So have you ever interviewed anybody that you really didn't care for?
That's a good question, but I think for the most part, anybody I've interviewed has really been cool. I mean, I was cool with them. I mean, I don't think there's ever really been an interview where like, I don't feel comfortable talking to this guy or girl or whatever. So no.
You're lucky.
Yeah, I remember that week before the Teddy Long interview. I'm like, hey, see, Red, next week on the show, we got a great opportunity. They're going to bring in Teddy Long. He's like, I ain't coming. I'm like, what? I don't like him. And it just went from there. So the whole week, I'm like, he's going to no-show the show. But C-Red was a little upset, but in the end, complete professional and had some great questions for Teddy Long. But boy, every once in a while, C-Red likes to make me a little nervous.
Well, but only you and a few others understood why that I wasn't showing up for that interview. And I wasn't. And let's be honest, we give each other a bunch of crap. But that's me and you, and that's our way of, I guess, saying to each other we love each other. But the professional part, I'm not gonna let you down. So you asked me to do a job, so I'm going to do it.
He does every week.
So I mean, I did that interview. I bit my and I think that's the difference. Mike has that advantage. Mike doesn't have to. Mike can interview people, and he might not have to ever see them again. Unlike us. Our paths with these people.
Everywhere.
First of all, most of the people that we interview, our paths are gonna cross again. So and think about it. We even got flack from different places, because they don't like our interview style.
Well, that was only
Works
one.
for different
That we
folks.
happened with. But anyway, so Mike, what do you got coming up? What you're everywhere. I mean, I see you at Warrior. You were at CSW. What are some of the things you have upcoming that we can look forward to seeing on Windy City Slam in the near future?
August 21st. August 21st.
I do have a show August 21st, but it's going to be at Warrior Wrestling.
Oh, John Bullard, did you hear that? Oh, we've been forsaken.
I know. I want to make it out to CCW at some point, and kind of hoping John can get it a little closer to Chicago for me.
I'll tell you what, August 21st is going to be a special show in Michigan City, but you're going to War Wrestling.
So here's the thing. So August 21st is just been, hours ago. I had no idea. It sold out.
Yeah.
So Mike, October I believe is the next show running around in Mr. Bullard's head.
October, I believe it's the 16th or the 17th or something.
Something like that.
If
you're willing to come out, your front row seat is on me.
Oh, very nice.
Red is footing the bill, man. Talk about an offer you can't refuse. You'd be swimming with the fishes.
Yeah, we'll have to check the calendar.
Anybody? Yeah, I have to buy him lunch when we go to the bar.
There you go.
Saturday, October 16th is the next CCW show, and that's I believe that's the tag team. We're starting that tag team tournament.
Nice.
I believe. I'm not sure.
I think something like that's happening that night.
But
you know what? Listen, I will not begrudge you going to Warrior, because one of the mains at that show is Thunder Rosa versus Kylie Ray.
Yeah, and I've not seen
Thunder
Rosa.
Important little match there, so I feel you. If I was not otherwise obligated, I would probably be there myself.
Yeah, Thunder Rosa is someone I've been wanting to see, and when she was at Warrior last year, I had other plans. I believe that might have been another wedding. Now, always these weddings interfering with shows.
People and their happiness.
But here's the crazy part. August 21st is also the night of SummerSlam.
Yes.
Yeah, that's third tier. So you've got CCW when worlds collide. You've got Warrior Wrestling with Thunder Rosa and Kylie Ray. SummerSlam.
Dude, but for me, so here's the thing. So
here's the funny part.
So to watch before they announced the date, and then they announced it, and it was like, really, y'all? This is normally a Sunday thing, right?
Yeah.
So I can wrestle on Saturday and then watch your little product on Sunday night. Now, okay, I guess y'all don't want. No, okay, because I'm not gonna watch it on the phone and be trying to. So
funny you should mention that, Red. I talked to Vince McMahon and he said he doesn't care.
Dude, who cares about his damn product? Because every time you turn around, somebody else getting let loose, let go.
Yeah, it's a cutthroat business, no doubt. All right, Mike. So you're going to be at Warrior Wrestling. What else is upcoming? You always have guests. You always have people. You always got the wheels are turning and irons in the fire. What else we got?
Yeah, we're going to preview the Warrior Wrestling show on next week's Windy City Slam podcast. Steve Tortorella, who's been a frequent guest, but we're also bringing on
Steve. What a guy!
But we're also bringing on Eric Hamilton, who is his right-hand man, his partner in crime, the guy that helps a lot of stuff in the background that maybe not a lot of people know. It's going to be fun to have him on for the first time. I'm hoping to get some other folks on later this month, early next month. I got a whole lot of names on my Excel sheet right now that I need to try to figure out, okay, who's next, who's coming on, including both of you guys, especially you, Steve, and C Red as well. I mean, I've got to touch the bases with all the different personalities and performers and stuff like that. Hoping also, fingers crossed, that I'll be a credentialed media member for All Out. I was able to be one a couple years ago for the big Chris Jericho coronation against Adam Page. And here's a funny story real quick. In the interview room, we have the scrum with some of the wrestlers. And then they bring out Hangman Page first after he lost the championship match to Jericho. He's all despondent and sad and stuff. And then all of a sudden there's this ruckus in the hallway. Then the ruckus is Pac. And he comes in and starts yelling at Page, ay, ay, ay. And then they have like this little face off. And then Pac just has his half full water bottle, whips it towards Hangman, bounces off the podium. And who does it hit? Me. Right in the leg.
Oh, you can sue him.
Did you keep it? Did you keep it?
Unfortunately, the bottle skidded under a curtain or something. I couldn't find it. So it would have been cool to have that on my mantle here in my office. But
that magic bottle theory I've heard so much about.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, all out. This might be the big one. This might be the one where you get a couple of people that they've been rumored making their arrival. This might be it. So that's a pretty big deal if you get on press row there.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I'm gonna.
Well, I hope you do, Mike. I would love nothing more than to see you cover a company that I believe that can take down put down Old Yeller.
Put him down. Old Yeller needs to go. All right, so Mike, we hope at some point in the future that you get to come out and cover Crash Tested Wrestling, because it's back now and better than ever.
Next month. What's next month?
We're not. Mike's got a lot going, so we're.
I know, but I'm just pitching, as you say, softballs.
Just lob him at him. He'll hit him. So we want to extend a personal invitation to you to come out and check out a show. Crash Tested Wrestling has been a much maligned entity for a long time. It was doing quite well a few years back, and then due to some unscrupulousness, it went away for a while, but now it's back under the original owner. And we just had our big WrestleMania moment, which is the Destiny show. And our main was Marche versus Brubaker, which is a main event anywhere you go up and down the turnpike. So I think we got something special happening in our new home in Hobart. And what a great way to get the word out there than to get the man that is at all the relevant shows, Mike Pankow, Windy City Slam, get him out to Crash Tested Wrestling to come see a man like C Red, who suddenly goes from manager, broadcaster, podcast host. Now he's the main event, saving the franchise, saving Marche Rocket's ass. NWA is going to have to send C Red checks for saving their product.
September 24th.
That's subliminal advertising going on.
We would like you to come out and check out the show and tell us what you think. It's a company that's in the very early stages. So it gets better each month. And I think, in a while, it's going to be right up there with anybody. Every beginning, every great company has to start from something. And I think we're on the fast track to something really cool. Just look at C Red throwing chairs at people. So that if that's not enough to put butts in seats, I don't know what is.
First of all,
not light tubes.
Let me explain.
Here we go.
Marche Rocket.
Now the show is gonna. Now we're gonna go to the power hour and a half. Is what's going to happen here.
First of all, Marche Rocket all day can fight without anybody's help. But there comes a time where you just can't let your friends be sucker punched. And you, of all people, know, Steve, what CNC Destruction has been doing these past few months.
Yeah, I didn't see you coming out of the locker room to help me when they planted my face into the table.
Well, I didn't know that they planted your face in the table. And first of all, I was still looking for your commentating partner's mystery partner, because I had some choice words for him, but he disappeared. And I think he knew I was heated by pulling my tights. And yeah, actually, I was getting ready to go to the merchandise table when I hear CNC Destruction saying, let's go get Marche now. No. So am I the most sound technical wrestler in the world? No means. Am I high flying? Hell no. But I'd be damned if you jump one of my friends. So you know, the president decided to make the match. I signed the contract. I'm not worried. Um, I'm not coming to wrestle. And I'm just telling you now, Steve. I'm not. And Mike, if you want to write that down and whatever, I'm not coming to wrestle. Crash Sets of Wrestling on September 24th. I'm not. I'm coming to fucking fight.
Whoa, hey, easy language.
It's our show.
Oh yeah,
It's
you're
our
right.
show.
You're right. My
So, I guess maybe if you looking for headlocks and back body splits and flips, and don't come September 20th.
The back body split. I
don't know. I just made it up.
It's a new move.
But if you're looking to see Chris Miller get punched in the mouth,
I mean, who isn't really? Who doesn't enjoy that? I enjoy it.
And Cody, I'm just telling you now, yeah, you're tall, but you got cojones. And I've got a foot. And I know where to put that foot at.
Damn.
So
I don't like testicle threats. It's very uncomfortable.
Oh well, I'm sorry. I don't understand. They're not playing fair, so I'm not gonna play fair. Why should I? That's why I brought the chair. I'm not. They've been playing dirty all over the area for past months. And nobody has said anything, or you've said something, but Steve, 9 times out of 10, they don't listen to you. So
true. Nobody listens to me.
So again,
I have a podcast because I don't.
Why on September 24th should I come? I put it like this: you saw me come to the ring, and you saw me, and I was dancing, I was smiling, the fans and all of that.
Pat, you were wearing the pimp hat.
You won't get the pimp hat on the 24th. You won't. I'm telling you now.
I really like the pimp.
I'm coming to fight, and you can call it the Soul Touchers reunion. You can call it whatever you want to. No, this is somebody who, again, like I said, I owe a lot to Marche. And I'd be damned if I just sit there. Did I sit there when Brubaker came out and got Marche's face? No. So you think I'm going to sit there and let him get jumped by CNC Music Factory? No.
Gonna make you sweat. Anyway, see Red in action at Whiplash, September 24th, teaming with Marche Rocket, CNC Destruction, lots of other great matches. It'll be a great event, and Mike, you'll enjoy it. If you don't see it, you'll enjoy hearing about it. Now, I want to go back to this. What is the end game for Mike Pankow and the Windy City Slam? Where do you hope this goes? Where would you like to see it? What are your aspirations? You wouldn't be doing it if you didn't have something that you were trying to accomplish. Tell me what that is.
Well, I just want some more personal satisfaction. I want to get the word out about all these promotions, all these different younger and veteran stars who work the Chicago area. And personally for me, yeah, I'm a little selfish. I want to make a few bucks off of it too. So hoping maybe to get a few advertisers. We do have an advertiser on there now. Very happy and grateful for that. But we're kind of want to build it up a little bit more and hopefully spread the word. People who love wrestling hopefully will come to us to see the stories and the pictures and the features, and then click in and listen to a podcast, see if we have enough entertaining and engaging guests on our show. So yeah, I kind of want to build up the brand to the point where we're one of the preeminent names in the Chicago area and in the Midwest as well.
Mike, if
I think you're kind of already there to a certain extent. I mean, you're here because we knew that the stories would be great and that you're so freaking connected that you know everything, and I love that about you. What were you gonna say, C-Red?
I want to know, Mike, is if people wanted to become an advertiser, is that on your website?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And what's that website?
WindyCitySlam.com. Or you can contact me at Mike Pankow at WindyCitySlam.com. That's MikePankow at WindyCitySlam.com. And I can get you a rate for advertising.
There you go. That is called product placement, folks. That was
Indeed.
well done, guys. That was a nice read. Mike, I like to ask this. I haven't asked the question in a while because the last couple of weeks we've had very specific guests and we've been doing very specific things. And I like to ask this of just about everybody because I'm always so curious. So you're a young man and you're hanging out at your house and you have your first wrestling experience, whether it being a parent or an uncle or a friend watching it, or you just caught it late night on TV.
Yep.
What is that moment where you knew you were going to have a relationship with professional wrestling the rest of your life?
I was probably about 10 years old, and I'm laying on the floor of my parents' living room. This was the mid 80s. So I'm 46. So yeah, you could see
I'm right there with you. I'm 51.
You can see the age in my face a little bit.
That's the golden era too.
Yeah, it's probably about 85. And my mom and my dad were really into it, especially my dad. We would watch World Class Championship Wrestling on the big console TV, this huge ass thing in our living room. I was the remote control since it was, we don't really have a remote control. So lay on the
all
floor
of
and
us
change the channel. Yeah. Yeah. So Von Erichs, Freebirds, Gorgeous Jimmy Garvin and Precious, Chris Adams, Sunshine, Gino Hernandez, people like that. And that was probably one of the seminal moments. And then obviously like Hulk Hogan, WWF, rock and wrestling, Roddy Piper, Mr. T. I was a huge A-Team fan when I was a kid. So I love seeing Mr. T get involved with WWF. And the WrestleMania 3 was probably the show that got me fully invested, pulled me in. I started watching every week. I couldn't get enough. Primetime Wrestling, World Class Championship Wrestling, the NWA, the AWA on ESPN. And even in Chicago, we had Windy City Pro Wrestling on Access channels.
Oh, there he is.
Yep, Windy City Pro Wrestling with Sam DeCero and even guys like Jimmy Blaze came out of there, and I got to talk to him a few weeks ago, and that was really, really cool.
Jimmy Blaze, that was a great man. Jimmy Blaze is a good dude. Every time I talk to him, he's always got a smile and a story. So I love Jimmy Blaze.
Don't we all? I mean, it's Jimmy Blaze. But I mean, isn't it funny that and Steve, we talk, I guess it's refreshing. That's a better word for it. That even though Mike is younger than us, but he still grew up in that era that we loved so much. And God, and maybe that's why we're a little jaded, or at least I am, because I grew up where there was so many options and you got to see so many different people with so many different skill sets, and you didn't have to just pick one or two. There were the 80s, there were a plethora, and especially depending on where you lived. Again, like I said, I didn't have cable, so I didn't get wrestling. So the only time I got wrestling was in the summer down south. So I got Memphis, and I got all the southern territories, and AWA and NWA and World Class especially. So you never realized what the territories were actually like, unless you experienced, how can you see Ric Flair on World Class, and then the next hour NWA comes on and Ric Flair's standing there again, and you're like, how's that possible? But it was possible back in the 80s.
There's two Ric Flairs, just like there were two Dave Hebners, right?
Two Ultimate Warriors.
we see how that worked out.
That didn't work out good at all. I remember Saturday Night's Main Event when the Honky Tonk Man cracked Randy Savage with a chair and Elizabeth went and got Hulk Hogan. That's some of the greatest storytelling. I mean, from a young fan standpoint, that blew my mind. Hulk Hogan's helping Randy Savage. They hit him with a guitar. I mean, there was so much happening in that one skit. It was.
But I think the difference is Saturday Night's Main Event gave you something different than you saw on regular programming, whether it be prime time or whatever. Just the graphics alone, when you can see when the opening is Jake the Snake Roberts, and you've got this huge snake with Jake Roberts, and you're caught by it because you're like, wow, and
it's like started off with the promos, and it would be like Hulk Hogan would be fighting Nikolai Volkov. Nikolai Volkov, I'm coming for you, brother. I'm coming for you at the end of the show. And you're like, oh my God, I got to see everything.
Right. And I think that's the difference. And now it's like, a 40-minute promo. Like, come on now. Like, no. But it's
Sometimes
good to know, Mike, that you grew up in that era that made us because me and Steve have had in-depth conversations, and we talk about our love for that era so much because that's when it bit us, and again, so.
And we had those giant action figures in that big ring, and we would go to the Halloween store and buy the fake blood, and I would just ooze the, it was,
See, you were lucky. I didn't get none of that.
Golden.
I didn't get. That's why I'm bad now, or was before my divorce, because all the stuff I couldn't get as a kid, I started buying because my parents wouldn't let me buy it. Again, remember I told you my father was a professional boxer, so he hated wrestling. So I couldn't bring anything wrestling related in this house. So even wrestling magazines, like I had to hide them under the bed, like they were porn magazines. Because
bet you had some porn magazines under that bed too.
I just wanted to.
Another show altogether. That's another show altogether.
Altogether.
Mike, I got one more question before we let you go. Being an extraordinary interviewer like you are, who is your dream interview? If you could interview anybody, who's the one?
Oh my God. You had to narrow it down to one.
give me a couple. I mean, if you got
dead or alive.
Yeah, give me something that you would just be like, of all the people that I could talk to, this is the one that would mean something.
I know I would just throw CM Punk's name out right away, but Randy Macho Man Savage, I think maybe number one. He'd be the guy. I mean, he's a local guy. I would love to talk about his background with his dad and his dad's company and how they got into wrestling, his baseball career, growing up in Downers Grove, all that good stuff. I would love to talk to Randy about that type of stuff.
That's if you're going to have a dream interview, why not go with one of the greatest of all time? One of my favorite interviews that I've ever had, I got a chance to interview my hero, Jim Ross. And when I interviewed him, I said, you have 10 minutes with Mr. Ross, as Pete's people said that. You have 10 minutes with him. And I said, okay. So I'm like, what am I going to ask Jim Ross in 10 minutes? So I just started talking about random stuff. I didn't hit him with, my God, what you mean? I said, so, let's, I think we almost had a power outage there for a minute, but anyway, that's sorry. I said, so tell me about barbecue sauce. And he's like, you want to talk about barbecue sauce? I'm like, well, you're selling barbecue sauce. Tell me why I should have it. And he went on a 45-minute rant about barbecue sauce. And his spokesperson said, Jim, we're done. He's like, no, I'm having a good time with this guy. My 10-minute interview turned into an.
And then
Sorry about that.
Hallelujah. I want to know how
we got inclement weather. What can I do? Annie M.
Yeah.
But did I not explain that, Mike? Did I?
Did.
Thank you.
Did. Absolutely.
Thank you. See, I got your back. See, you need to stop.
And I actually have a Jim Ross story too. Once you're done, Steve,
I would love to hear it. Well, no, but it was great. And that's my point is if you have an interview with somebody and you make them feel comfortable, you never know what you're going to get. So that was my point. But yeah, tell me your Jim Ross story. I'd love to hear it.
Actually, like I said earlier, I interviewed Christopher Nowinski on 2 different occasions. My shoot job, I actually interviewed Chris back in 2002 at a WWE show up in Milwaukee. I also got to do a phone interview for that same story with good old JR, because at that time he was talent relations. So I asked him a little bit about Chris, and he compared Chris to Stone Cold Steve Austin, first one in the building, last one to leave. He talked a little bit about sports metaphors and stuff like that he uses. And it was just a whole lot of fun. I was just in awe, just listening to JR. I got him on the phone for maybe 15, 20 minutes. And I mean, talk about marking out. I was definitely trying to hold that back, but I was totally marking out for JR as I was talking.
I'd listen to that man read a damn phone book. I swear to God.
Yeah, he was amazing.
I think we all, and again, I think that's the beauty of wrestling. You can tell the genuine passion of somebody, and Jim Ross over the years has shown. I mean, so I suffer from Bell's palsy. A lot of people don't know that, and a lot of people are afraid, of everything that comes along with it. So for Jim Ross just to have that and come back, and he's never missed a beat, and and I must admit I give Jim Ross a lot of flack, especially on Wednesday nights when he messes up.
We're all human, man.
But we are, but it's all out of love and fun, because it's like you never see an icon that big normally mess up. But again,
just makes it more charming.
But think about how long he's been doing this, plus he's up there in age, but again, it makes you just love Jim Ross even more. That guess what? I'm sure he knows by the time that show ends that he messed up, but he's right back at it the next week, and you don't see him stopping. So all our cowboy hats off to Jim Ross.
You got to have a short memory. You can't dwell on mistakes. They happen. You move on. Mike, tell the kids. Tell me about that. Mike, tell the kids how they can get their dosage of Windy City Slam and all the good stuff you have. Run down all of your social media.
Absolutely. First of all, windycityslam.com is where you find stories, photo galleries, and all that fun stuff. Then I'm also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Windy City Slam. Plus, I have a YouTube channel, which is my name, Mike Pankow, where I have some interviews on there of people I've talked to in the past. Frankie Kazarian is on there, Mick Foley, Jay Lethal audio interview, a few others. I mean, I had a lot of fun with those guys. And check out that YouTube channel there. Stick with the social medias for all kinds of pictures and podcast promos and stuff like that as well. So we're everywhere. We're trying to reel you in. So follow us at windycityslam.com, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and windycityslam.com, as well as the podcast every week, wherever you find your podcasts. New episodes drop Tuesday mornings.
And promoters, this is for you. Get Windy City Slam out to your show, because when Mike came out to CSW, the coverage he provided was fantastic. And I know everybody at CSW loved having you in the building. It was a great night for us. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you and Steve Boz and everybody else were pretty awesome to me that night. I made some new friends there as well. So I very much appreciated my time at CSW. Man,
we loved having you. That's going
to do it. TikTok? Are you on TikTok?
I'm not actually.
See Red's on TikTok. See Red naked with singing Careless Whisper. If you want to see that, if that's something you want to see, you go to TikTok and
Careless Whisper
at TikTok, and it's there. He is channeling his George Michael, no shirt, romance. It's all there.
Yeah, and if you want to hear more about Wham's influence on Cal Hero, check out this week's episode of Windy City Slam Podcast.
And
Available now.
that's how you tie a room together.
Indeed.
Next week on the Power Hour, we will have John Bullard, and it's not going to be a wrestling show. It's going to be a show about journeys. So the Power Hour is going to go off a little bit different direction. I hope you will join us. We want to thank Mike Pankow, Windy City Slam, 3rd anniversary. What a great product. What a great promotion. You do great work in this business. This business wouldn't be as entertaining without you. So thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And wherever you are out there, stay safe because the weather sucks. On behalf of Mike Pankow from Windy City Slam and the urban sensation Steve C-Red, I'm Steve. We'll see you next week on the Power Hour. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.